All right, guys, welcome back to the Squid Talk podcast. Huge guest today, my good friend, Isaac Hetzroni, otherwise known as the Sourcing Guy. Hundreds of thousands of followers across platforms. It's actually how I found him, through social media. He's helped my business literally save hundreds of thousands of dollars. And if you guys have purchased SquidHaus products, my company, recently, you'll know that the quality has gone through the roof over the past 6 to 8 months because of this guy right here. Genius dude. He's also the CEO and founder of the fastest growing sourcing agency currently in the industry today. And he's also a member of my networking group. So before we get into the podcast, if you're a young entrepreneur, or maybe you're just interested in starting a business, entrepreneurship, if you're more at the beginning of your journey and maybe you feel a little lonely, a little isolated, like you're not able to connect or network or talk with other people who are also ambitious and building things, we have a free Discord. I'll leave the link below. It's got, I believe, over 5,000 members now. Once again, just young guys and girls getting after it, building cool things. If you're at the beginning of your journey, this is the place for you. And if you're a little further in your journey, if you're a young founder, maybe in your 20s or early 30s, and you're at the multi-7-figure level or 8-figure level in your business, and you're also looking to get connected with young, ambitious people in a variety of industries, we have an extremely high growth network of entrepreneurs. It's my group. It's called Outliers. I'll leave the link to the application down below. We accept about 25, 30 people every quarter, you call it. So if you're looking to get connected with other young, successful people, you can go ahead and click that and apply below. But let's get into the podcast. All right, bro, welcome on. Isaac Hetzroni, otherwise known as the Sourcing Guy. That's how I knew you first, at least. Can you explain like where that came from?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was trying to think of a brand that I could come up with, like a personal brand that's very clear. What does this person do? And I thought, well, I source products, so might as well be the sourcing guy.
Yeah, I think I don't think people talk about enough how creating a character on social media does you wonders. Like if your name was just Isaac Hetzroni or mine was just Lucas Pachter, it wouldn't do as well. But if you attach a character to it, like Squid or the Sourcing Guy, like that separates yourself. Because it's hard for people to just remember random names. So I think creating this like larger than life character that you're known for is super valuable, at least personal branding wise. But before we get into personal branding, for everyone listening, watching, whatever, can you give like a brief SparkNotes background on what it is you do for everyone who's not familiar?
Yeah, for sure. So I run a product sourcing agency, and what that means is I help brands source products. We source all kinds of products for companies. We do a lot in the corporate merchandise space. Think of like company swag and promotional products. And then we also work with lots of e-commerce brands sourcing the products for them. And, a lot of people haven't heard of this as like a business model. And I'm trying to kind of promote it to the world a little bit as well as a great way to potentially make money. At the end of the day, it's just arbitrage to an extent of finding good suppliers and being able to connect those suppliers with the right buyers.
For sure. And for everyone who is not too familiar with the clothing space, at least, I personally use Isaac for my sourcing. It's been game changer. Like we can get into like horror stories of the past of what it was like trying to do sourcing on our own. But especially if you're a newer business and you have the volume coming in, if you have people wanting to buy your product, but you necessarily don't know how, like, let's say the Chinese, how they do business or how to find the right manufacturers, it's very, very easy to get fucked. And I got fucked a lot of times, bent over backwards, until Isaac came in and he was like, well, I know how to do business with the Chinese. So it's not only saved us a lot of money, but if any of you guys have bought SquidHaus products before, it's insane, right? The quality is way better. Isaac and I have personally been working on what I consider to be the greatest underwear of all time. I think it's I've always been like a Saks underwear guy. I had him on the podcast too, but I think it's going to give Saks a run for their money. And it's like I didn't even have to do any work. I was like, yo, Isaac, I need the best fucking underwear there is. I don't care what it costs. Let's get it done. I think I hit you up about that like 8 months ago. And now finally we have, I think, the perfect product. So first of all, thank you. But let's talk about like scale a little bit. And if you don't want to give like exact numbers, that's fine. But how old are you right now?
I'm 27.
27, and like roughly how much you guys do in a year revenue wise?
I mean, so to give you an idea, we were the fastest growing promotional product and merch distribution company in the entire industry. I have 20,000.
Really? I didn't know that.
Back in
Holy shit.
2020, and we were already doing we were already doing over $1 million a year when I was still in college.
No way.
So yeah, it's been a really fun journey.
What about
growing.
right now? Can you talk about like
We
scale wise?
we do a lot. Yeah,
You do a lot. Okay,
yeah, we
nice.
do a
How many
lot.
employees do you guys have?
About 11 people.
Nice, dude. And
Yeah.
what's it like running a business in multiple different countries with obviously multiple employees, but multiple employees that speak different languages, that come from different backgrounds, different cultures? Can you talk about like what it's like having to manage people who might have different senses of how they're supposed to do their jobs, culture-based wise?
I think that's one of the hardest things. I mean, as well, like now you're CEO, you're managing employees. Every single person that you manage, every person on your team is essentially you have to be a different manager for those people.
Yeah.
So when you factor in, that they're completely different culture, like they have a completely different culture, they have a different mindset about how to do business, it becomes difficult. So what we try to do is really kind of segment our team between different countries. So majority of our team is either in China right now or the Philippines, and we can kind of have our own subcultures between the organization, make sure everyone ultimately aligns with our overall culture as well. So what that means is like everyone needs to be in our company very happy, positive people, very excited with what they do. And then from there, from a smaller perspective, then the managers have to then make sure they're managing their employees based off of the cultural norms of that country that they're in. And then the entire org kind of runs.
So culture is super important for your business.
100%.
But it's online, right?
Mhm.
Everyone's on. How do you maintain a culture, a vibrant culture, making people happy, making them feel proud of their work when you're just communicating over the phone, text, and Zoom?
It's really hard. We try to do as much in person as possible. So like all the Canton fairs, we'll fly the team out, make sure everyone's there together, being able to do in-persons. We host in-person small stuff between the teams. But yeah, I mean, I definitely do miss. We used to be fully in person. Back when I started the company in college, we had an office there for years, and I've really been missing that. So we're actually opening up a new headquarters for the company and trying to move as much as possible into in person in the next few months. We're opening up in Shenzhen.
Headquarters in Shenzhen.
Yeah.
And how much of the year are you going to be over there, you think?
Probably 2-3 months a year.
Nice.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about your background, specifically in manufacturing and sourcing, number one, but also when it comes to like dealing in business in Southeast Asia. It's obviously very different than business in the States.
Yeah. Well, luckily I had a very, very unique upbringing that I can credit a lot of my knowledge to. Both sides of my family owned factories. So originally I was born in Canada. We had a small apparel factory, about like 10 employees. But growing up from like being a young age, I was helping out with the factory, helping out with the fabrics, and understanding like the fundamentals of apparel manufacturing. And then when I was about 10 years old, my dad went and he was really successful with e-commerce in like the late 90s with Yahoo SEO, OG e-com. But he couldn't find a good factory for his products. So he kept on going to China trying to find the right factories, and he ended up saying, screw it. And he went, took all of his e-com money and bought a Chinese factory. And so he's been operating a factory in China, in Suzhou, for the last 20 years. And so I got to grow up, with that being my dad and working for the factory every summer and him bringing me to China. And that was a really, really great introduction into working overseas, as well as I had to understand like how a factory runs. And once I understood how a factory ran, especially for products as complex as what we were manufacturing, then when it comes into like, hey, I have to make some underwear, it's, and just source it, not actually like run the factory for it, it ends up being, a pretty easy task.
Interesting. So what was it like? It sounds like you were traveling a lot.
Yeah.
As a kid?
Traveling a lot.
Where'd you go to high school? Like, what was that like?
I went to high school in Florida. So I was still like, my dad was kind of commuting back and forth to China. But once I graduated college, I decided to go and kind of invest fully into traveling for manufacturing. So I spent 8 months visiting factories. I was visiting factories all through China, Sri Lanka, Thailand, Cambodia, Indonesia. And then that taught me a lot about global manufacturing, and I'm really happy I did that because it gave me a really good perspective on how to manufacture around the world, and especially now with all these talks about tariffs and mitigating risk, all those kind of time investments I put into global manufacturing are now coming to fruition because I have the relationships outside China.
Interesting. And so I imagine that obviously your family being entrepreneurs, that was a big impact in you becoming an entrepreneur. Was this always what you wanted to do, or was this sort of like you graduated college, you're like, I don't know yet?
Oh, no, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I think 100%, like, I would not be where I was if it wasn't for my family. I'm not gonna, like, lie about it,
Yeah.
What I initially started with, my first kind of business, I was just selling random fake products at school. So I would be selling like fake Beats by Dre headphones and fake Oakleys and just whatever I could go and source from China.
Wait, you were the guy that scammed me?
Yeah. I would sell them as fake. We were selling real headphones too. I figured out a whole scheme. I had a company called Beats by Isaac through middle school.
Nice.
And but essentially from a young age, I realized that I want to make my own money. And I think my family really encouraged that. But additionally, I really enjoyed selling product. I enjoyed selling gadgets. And I learned the fundamentals of like how to use Alibaba and just order product from the age of, I think I was 13 was the first time I ordered like a bulk order on Alibaba, to give you an idea.
Yeah.
So I think at this point, I'm
Interesting.
kind of a power user.
Do you have any, I mean, I certainly have some, I could talk for hours about this, but do you have any Alibaba horror stories or like early days sourcing horror stories?
Oh, definitely. I mean, like, it took me a while to really understand how to source effectively. We were ordering, initially when we started the company, we were ordering cell phone fans that plug into your phone. That was kind of like how the business started. Started with one product. And as you know, you start a business doing one thing and it expands to something else. So the business started with us selling custom cell phone fans for businesses. Again, it's a little fan.
Cell phone fans.
Yeah. Plugs in the bottom of your phone, spins. Started originally selling them at fraternity parties just to drunk girls to make extra money.
Was the tagline back then? Isaac the cell phone fan guy.
We actually had tank tops. Maybe I'll show you a picture later. But it's they said, "You look hot. I sell $5 fans," and we'd wear that to all the different parties and just be slinging these fans.
Needed you in Tucson, bro. It's fucking hot out there, especially at the Dagers in like August and September.
Yeah,
you would have killed it out there.
Well, you would have been a great rep,
dude.
Back in the day if you weren't slinging shorts instead.
Yeah,
but. Essentially what happened was we got like our first bulk orders, right? And I didn't know at the time, that I was working with an agent, which is a problem people have a lot of times. They think they're working directly with the manufacturer.
From Alibaba.
Oh. I thought I was working directly with the manufacturer and I didn't know the difference. I didn't know how to distinguish. So I ended up working with an agent, and the agent went and swapped the manufacturer on me when I placed the bulk order. And so then we got completely different fans. Those fans ended up, the CEO of this huge, like $40 million company went, and we made them for them. We made thousands of them. He went to go plug in the phone, and it broke his phone. And all and all the products were broken. And we were like, and essentially I had to completely wash the whole project. I apologized, explained what happened, and we ended up recovering the relationship and still doing, probably a few $100,000 with them over the next few years. But
that's crazy damage control, I imagine. How old are you at this point?
I was 19.
I can't even imagine being 19 and having that happen. I mean, we had to deal with our own issues too, but yeah, what was that like, breaking that guy's phone? I mean, I'm furious. If I was, even right now, but if I was running a $40 million a year company and my phone just broke.
Yeah.
What was that cell phone like, that call when he called you?
Well, he couldn't call me because the cell phone broke.
I guess that's right. Isaac, you fucking suck. Letter. Interesting.
But it was awkward, but I think it's all about being like honest and just super apologetic. And obviously, like, one of his worries was that they had an event coming up, right, within like a week, and they're like, we need stuff to give away. Like, I know you're gonna get me a new phone, but like, what are they gonna do here? So we went and just like, I spent like all night figuring out logistics, and we delivered different product for them for their event.
How'd you get a product in a week?
We used the domestic supply chain. So we found a domestic supplier that had the goods, a different product, and then we were able to essentially like decorate on them in the US and then fulfill the order.
I imagine you lost a shit ton of money with that, huh?
Yeah.
Just trying to make up, right that wrong.
We did, exactly. But the thing was, because I was honest about it because I did everything I could to make it right and credit him and apologize. We ended up recovering the relationship and then doing so much business with them afterwards.
It's a great business lesson. And a lot of young people don't understand that. It's like, we had a situation before we were working with you where we had been hyping up a product for probably half a year, like 6 months. People were so excited for it, ordered a ton. I think at the time it was a lot. It was like, I think we spent like $25,000 on it, which, a college student spending that on one order, put like almost every dollar we had into it. And it showed up and it was like completely defective. Like all the shorts were ass. It wasn't anywhere near like the quality we wanted to sell. And it was tough, dude. We had to make a decision. Like, do we sell a product that we know is kind of ass? I know people will buy it because the demand is there. Like, people have been waiting for months to get this product. I know we'd sell out instantly. But I knew that if someone ordered this product after I hyped it up for months, they'd probably never buy from us again. And so instead, going back and forth with an Alibaba little connection. Who knows if it was the lady claimed to be the owner of the factory, little small family business. She said, bullshit, probably an agent. After going back and forth with her for like a week, I finally got refunded, and then we just had to order it again. And I think that was the right move to make, because when the product finally did come out, people were really happy with it. But those are important decisions you have to make as a young entrepreneur, because at the end of the day, it's a relationship game, right? You burn one bridge in exchange for $20,000, $40,000, $100,000. You're going to lose so much potential opportunity long term. I think a lot of people don't understand that. And I think in general, if you do good business with good people, the money will come eventually.
Yeah.
And you got to remember, like, if you start a relationship at this age, 19, 20, 21 years old, 10 years from now, when you guys are both building multi-million dollar businesses, you're going to do so much business together. So it's really important, if you're a young entrepreneur, like, you got to remember, one of your biggest assets, aside from being young and being energetic and fun and having all this young creativity, is you have the ability to start relationships really, really early and build trust long term. It's like Isaac and I will probably be doing business for a decade or longer, hopefully. You know what I mean? And that's a huge asset to me and to you as well, hopefully, if our business becomes really big. So I think you made the right move there. But what I want to talk about a little bit is you spent a lot of time in Southeast Asia. If I were to ask you, I've never been to China, and I plan on going there in like a month or so. If I were to ask you, what's it like in China? I know that's a very broad question. What's the difference between like Chinese culture? Like, how would you summarize that for me?
Yeah, I mean, first thing is it's incredibly technologically advanced. When you go to a city like Shanghai, your jaw literally drops because it's
Really?
the most...
It's like cyberpunk vibe or what?
Beyond cyberpunk.
Really?
Well, I would say the most cyberpunk is like Hong Kong, where it feels very gritty, and Shanghai just feels like so futuristic.
Like,
and,
why? What about it?
There's the skyline, the buildings, the lights. It's also a gorgeous city where there's essentially like the water kind of running through, so you can be on the other side and then look into this like ridiculous futuristic city.
Would it be like if the river in Austin had like a whole city on the other side too, and you could see both sides?
Exactly, yeah.
Interesting.
So that's one thing, and the thing is, they are really at the peak of innovation. So with drone technology, you can go to Shenzhen and see these massive drone shows with thousands and thousands of drones creating these amazing spectacles in the air, or to actually drones being utilized on a daily basis for food delivery, right? Everything is really efficient. Or even like I just made a video about the taxis in China, like that. You can go and call this like one taxi that has butterfly doors that come up. You go inside, you have a chauffeur with like massage chairs, and it's the cost of an Uber here, right? So there's a lot of really cool things about China. I think there's to note is that they are very focused around business and manufacturing. So if you like business and you like doing business, like, it's a really, really cool place to be, because a lot of things can move very fast. They're also very hungry. Like, all these factories are like hustlers, and that's also really nice, because sometimes in our kind of society, I think we're getting a little complacent. You don't see as much of the hustle, the everyday hustle of like really, really want to make it big. But when you go and you talk to other young, let's say Chinese people or young factory managers, like they're almost never complacent. Like they're ready. They always want to go and push harder and harder and harder. So it gets me, energized.
See, that's really surprising to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to say like, and honestly, in like a slightly negative way, because I would have always thought like, oh, America is where the innovation is. America is where that entrepreneurial spirit is. But you're saying it's kind of like the opposite right now. It's like over there, it's just they're shitting on us or what?
Well, it's different kind of entrepreneurship. I think that we're very good at innovation as well, but they are really good at applying technology rapidly into infrastructure. So we have a lot of red tape when it comes to any type of construction or implementation of technology versus the Chinese have almost no red tape. They can go and build like 30 times faster than us when it comes to infrastructure. And they don't really have to worry. The officials don't have to worry about getting reelected, So they're just going and they're going to apply.
They're not campaigning and shit. They're just actually doing stuff.
They're just executing and they're working on this. Like they're thinking, because they're not thinking on like a 4 or 8 year span, they're making moves in a 50, 100-year span, right? Where they're investing heavily into places like other places in Southeast Asia, throughout Africa, building critical infrastructure because they know that these are moves that are going to benefit them. Again, 100 years down the road. And the U.S. is never going to be thinking like that. Unfortunately, the politicians a lot of times are really thinking about just the next 4 to 8 years.
Yeah, absolutely. The next 4 to 8 years, and I think a lot of politicians probably spend more time in their first term focusing on re-election than they do on actually getting shit done.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate because if you do focus on getting shit done, like you'll probably lose, honestly. Like if you spend your first 4 years like trying to accomplish stuff and make change while the other guy is talking about how great he is and how much you suck, the way the media works these days, the way that our political landscape is set up, I feel like you'll probably lose.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like this vicious cycle. And so, I mean, yeah, it's really interesting to me to see the long-term effects of that. Do you think from a political standpoint, we don't need to get too political, but one question I have is from a political standpoint, do you see any downsides to how they have that set up? I mean, I guess it's not like as free or whatever. You don't have as much choice, but...
Well, that's the downside, right?
Yeah.
Is that I would never actually live in China. I love America, especially living in Texas now, in Austin. Like I really do feel free. And it's something like you
don't feel that way over there?
Well, the thing is, I can never even say this, right?
Really?
Like, and that's the thing.
Crazy.
So
he's like, what can I say?
Yeah,
like go over there, be cool fun.
And that's the honest truth is like, I could literally potentially like not be allowed to go back.
That's crazy.
So but I love China. Like and I'm not saying that just to make sure my visa gets approved, but like there's a lot to love about China and the people there. But at the end of the day, like I love America for the freedoms that it does bring.
How are the people over there? Like average everyday, like like your average like political officials and business aside, like how are like the average everyday? Are there like cool, genuine people over there who you could like get along with and go clubbing with and all that stuff? Or is it just a little different?
Well, I mean, yeah, I'd say that.
Like, I feel like Austin, it's so easy to just meet someone at the gym. Hey, you're a really cool guy. Let's get lunch.
Well, I think there's obviously the culture barriers, right? And I'm learning Mandarin, but it's taking me time before I'm like going to be able to just like go up to someone completely new and be able to converse with them at such a high level that we can become friends, unless they know English. A lot of them do, but especially like I find like the expats in China are very open to me. I make a lot of friends while I'm there. And the factory owners and like people within the factories, I would say really love American culture. If you look at like Major League Baseball, the amount of merchandise they sell in China is like, I think more than the US or something crazy like that. Yeah. So they love American sports. They love American culture. So, they love the ability to go and connect with Americans and party with Americans. So I tell people one of the best things you can do to build the relationships with your factories is just be yourself and go and send pictures of you with your friends at the bar to your factories. Go when you're at China, like just you can be like yourself, like almost more yourself than you could be in the US. You know what I mean? Because they're gonna appreciate how genuine you are, and they're gonna love just spending the time with you. And when you break over that barrier of like, our relationship is not just business focused, our relationship is more of a actually friendship, and that you're sending each other gifts over the holidays, and again, like you're texting as friends, that is the most valuable thing you can ever have with your manufacturers overseas, because they're never going to want to lose your business. They might not care about your business because you're a small fish within like the pond for them, but they're going to not want to lose their cool American friend.
That's actually really interesting, and maybe even a little surprising to me. I've met multiple different, call it large business owners that have like businesses doing multiple 8 figures, some doing 9 figures, who have said a variety of different things. I've heard two stark different opinions and viewpoints on doing business with the Chinese. One of them is like, it's war all the time. They don't give a fuck about you. You don't give a fuck about them. Like, haggle them as much as you can, get the prices as low as possible. Don't tell them anything about you. And I've also heard from those types of people, and I've experienced this myself. Like a lot of times, like the Chinese will lie to your face, and if they can lie to your face and get away with it, some of them think that's like genuinely good business. Like, oh, they're just too stupid. They don't understand what I'm saying. But then I've also met guys, not just yourself, but like my mentor Hudson, who probably said something very similar to you, which is like, no, build a long-term relationship, get personal with them, right? Be vulnerable, because like that's the right way to do it. I'm curious your standpoint on that.
Well, I think that, look, if you don't know anything about overseas manufacturing and then you are, I guess, too playful with it, then yeah, you can get screwed over. And it can be war in a sense. But I think the best combination is being educated and then building the relationship, because you can come, instead of saying like, screw you, your pricing is too high, like I'm gonna leave, like I hate your, and saying like a lot of negative stuff. You come into it like, hey, look, I know the cost basis on this, the raw materials on this is at $1.70. Your labor's at,
well, most people don't know that.
50 cents. Most people don't know that, but I'm saying the more educated you become, and you can. The thing is like, Hudson sells hoodies, right? He can go and understand the current raw material costs for his poly blend fabric that he uses. Yeah. He can go and learn how much labor it costs typically to manufacture a hoodie in China as well as in Pakistan or these different places.
I'm sure with ChatGPT, it's probably not too hard.
Yeah.
Or at least to get like a ballpark.
100%. Yeah. Just ask ChatGPT. And now you're going to go and have this knowledge, have this information, come to the table educated. And then once you're educated and you understand the market, you understand how much things cost, you understand how much margin the factory needs to make, then you come to the factory educated, and they're going to respect the fact that you actually know what you're talking about. They're going to realize they can't step all over you. And you can approach negotiations as an honest conversation instead of it being a hostile conversation. Because what happens when it's a hostile conversation is the things like the cell phone fan story I was talking about. Yeah. They're going to go and switch things up on you, because that's the other thing. If you don't understand the makeup, right, the bill of materials, the makeup of your product, then in theory, if we're talking about selling a hoodie, if you're not 100% clear on, for example, the exact fabric and the cotton quality you're going to use and the GSM and all these different specifications of your product, and you're hounding your factory for lower costing, then they're just going to go and send you a hoodie.
A shittier product.
Exactly. And they're going to get the costing that you want, but they're going to do it the way that's going to support them. So if you're always hounding on price, they're going to figure out a way to get the price lower, but it might not always be within your best interest.
Interesting. That's good to know. For anyone like watching or listening who wants to, like, for example, like for ease of the conversation, start a clothing brand like I did, and they don't know anything about sourcing or doing business in China or finding manufacturers, what would you say? I know it's kind of, not as easy as it sounds, but what would you say? What would your advice be for them to become as experienced and knowledgeable as possible?
I mean, So the plug, I do have a course.
Okay. There you go.
I mean, look, follow the sourcing guy.
Yeah. Follow Isaac
I have
Hetzroni on socials.
I have plenty of free content talking about manufacturing, and there's a lot of other really great people out there on the internet that have been posting content as well. But I also did build like an entire course and mentorship program to teach people everything I know about sourcing so that you can become educated on manufacturing. And it's everything that I kind of learned over the last, I guess, 20-ish years of doing sourcing.
Yeah.
And then other than that, ChatGPT is a really great friend. Like, it knows a lot. I still use ChatGPT to ask some certain questions
I
about
do every single
sourcing,
day for almost everything.
go have a chat with it and say, look, I want to learn more about manufacturing hoodies. Like, what do I need to know about it? What are the different intricacies of it? And you'll be able to learn a lot. But unfortunately, it's like the education is not readily out there, and it's kind of this like black box, manufacturing and sourcing. And that's what I'm trying to do with the Sourcing Guy. That's like the main mission of it, is to give people the education that I wish I had when I was starting my agency.
Well, you're doing it the right way, for sure. I think, because here's the thing, when you're, for everyone listening and watching, when you're building a business, the reality is you're probably not going to get your first big paycheck until you sell or IPO one day, right? Like, I don't know what your plans are long term with Imprint Genius, but you're probably not going to get a big payday until you sell or IPO or have some sort of offering, sell off your shares, maybe you get a big bank loan. So in the meantime, how do you make money while also wanting to maximize the growth of your business? Like, every entrepreneur knows, like, every dollar you can keep in the business is not only better for the growth, but better for the exit at the end of the day. If your profit is 20% versus 25% because you don't pay yourself as much in the early days, that is, you got to think about it from like an exit standpoint. If you're getting a 5x or a 10x return on your yearly profit, like, every dollar you keep in the business is literally $10 that you get when you sell one day, right? So I think you're doing it the right way while building a business, building a personal brand at the exact same time, and offering a useful product that not only you can make money off of, which is great, but the people watching, they know that you're not just a course guy because you've actually done it and you've been doing it for 20 years. You're not just like, you're not making all your money off courses. So I applaud you. I think you're doing it the right way.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Speaking of which, what do you think your time split is these days between personal branding and actually working on the business? Because they both go hand in hand, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best utilization of my time would be really focused around content and personal brand as much as I can. But there's limitations with the personal brand growing a lot. We've been having a huge influx of business and projects and scaling out the team. So, I mean, if you look at my Instagram, I've only posted a couple times this month, and that's not good from an algorithm perspective. So it is this constant battle. That's why I kind of moved to Austin for the time being, to really be able to put my head down and work the 12, 13-hour days to hit those goals. I think that personal brand is like the way that we're differentiating ourselves, and it's the way that I'm able to grow the company and everything that we do. So that's why, again, I'm building a new office, is so that I can really focus on working on the business versus in the business, hiring really, really smart people who can
documenting that too.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. I don't think there are any other, at least none that I'm aware of, that have a platform like you that are doing the same thing. So I imagine that it's like, would you say that you've gotten more lead gen, more deal flow from your personal brand than from any other source?
100%. Yeah. I mean, we stopped doing any type of outbound marketing because there's just so much inbound coming in.
And it's all free technically.
Yeah.
No ad spend. That's epic. Nice. And so what is your typical process for generating new leads? Is it simply just make content and then people DM you, or?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are going to they're going to discover our agency through the content and through the links. And they're going to go into different buckets of being either, you're at the size where we can take you on as a client from an agency perspective, because I really think we do work best with like your type of scenario, right? You're already established, you already have the momentum. You just need to improve your product quality and launch new products effectively, and then allow that to keep on growing. So if that fits perfectly for the agency, great, we're going to take that on. And if not, hopefully you can come and join part of our community and, learn about how to source yourself, build it out yourself, and then once you become a 7-figure brand, come back to us and we're gonna help you.
Nice. So that's generally what you look for, 7-figure plus. Yeah. Nice. Okay, cool. And then, so you mentioned obviously you're living in Austin now. You've been here a couple months. You used to live in Bali, right? Walk us through what that's like. I mean, I feel like everyone that talks about Bali and sees Bali on social media, like, to me, it looks like it's, oh, you just get to chill and like, sure, you're working and stuff, but it seems like a very like relaxed lifestyle. Like from our conversation the other day, it sounds like you were kind of like living like a king out in Bali. Like, can you explain what
Yeah.
that lifestyle is like?
I mean, it's the best lifestyle ever. And again, there's a reason why I'm back here, but I love my time in Bali. I'm gonna go back for the summer as well. But you have everything you could ever want from a access perspective. Everything comes to the house. Whether you want a tailor to come make your clothes or a person to come and just stretch you, like anything.
Stretch you?
I have a girl that stretches me. I have a a chiro that comes to the house. I have 2 different physiotherapists. I have like healers, regular massage. Like all this comes to the house for like $10. So like for a lifestyle
Private chef,
perspective,
all that?
everything. Yeah, you have the chef, and if you can get food delivered also for like a poke bowl delivered for like $4.
Is it good food over there?
Yeah, it's great.
So you
It's
have like
super
every
clean,
amenity you
healthy.
could ever need.
Yeah,
Your house looked pretty sick where you were staying.
yeah.
I'm sure the prices of like, what is like, let's say average rent is like $1,800 for a decent place here in Austin for a 1-bedroom. What will that get you in Bali?
To be honest, that's what's been going up a ton recently has been rental.
Right.
I'd say you're gonna want it if you want a decent place. You're still gonna pay like $1,800, but it's gonna be a sick pad, So you're gonna get a lot more for the money. But if you want to be comfortable, I would expect to pay around that. It's just every other expense. Like you go to a really nice restaurant that's like it feels like you're at like a super nice place in Miami, and amazing plating, amazing chefs. And your entree like $10, So in that scenario, like Bali's fantastic. So I really loved my 3 years in Bali. It was fantastic to be so close to the team and so close to China, be able to go back and forth. But at the end of the day, it's a very relaxed lifestyle. And I realized I worked really, really hard. And my goal with the business when I was scaling it was get it to the point where I can then go and essentially fuck off to Bali.
Yeah.
Right. And I did that, and I realized that's not making me happy. Like,
really?
Yeah. Like, I don't like. Yeah, it's really nice to like chill at the spa all day and like just go out and go on these crazy vacations. But I'm genuinely just happier just behind the desk.
So wait. Let me ask you something then. How many hours a day do you think you worked in Bali?
4 hours a day.
So you worked 4 hours a day.
Yeah.
You were living like a king, pretty much. You had every amenity, every service you could need, great food, great weather, great entertainment, I've heard. But you're happier over here working 12 hours a day?
Yeah, for sure.
That's crazy. That's awesome though. I think that's literally like the best situation to be in, that you love your work that much that you would rather be working. I feel the same way, that you would rather be working than like fucking off.
Yeah, and I think everything in life is cyclical. At a certain point, I'm going to burn out. Give me like a month or two. 12-hour day is going to catch up to me, but it's fine. I'm going to bounce back to Bali, go back to, maybe 7 hours a day instead of, 12 or instead of 4, and readjust and, figure out what my goals are and then get recharged and then come back and, grind again.
Well, bro, your business is probably 8 figures, I would imagine.
So the revenue is complicated because we do a lot of like management, right? So like think about from you guys, we take a percentage of spend, but
wait, can you explain the business model for anyone listening?
Yeah, for sure. So that's why from a revenue perspective, so for example, for SquidHaus, right, for you guys, we work on a percentage of COGS.
Yeah.
So we based off of the amount of product we're manufacturing for you, you're able to pay your factories directly, and then we take a percentage of that.
Yeah.
So I could talk of vanity revenue, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, we're really focused around this profitability as a company. And so that's how we work with a lot of our like trusted long-term e-commerce brands, because what we try to do is make it very fair. So our percentage also goes down over time. As you go and you grow your business, our percentage gets more aggressive so that you guys...
more volume,
It's more volume. And so that's how we like doing business. We like to be very transparent. And that's how we work with a lot of our e-commerce brands. But then on the corporate side of things, where it's just project-based, we just mark up the product cost.
Gotcha.
Typically, we'll run, let's say, like a 30 to 50% margin on like corporate merchandise versus for you guys, it's a fraction of that.
Well, yeah, the reason I bring that up is because, in talking about this whole working 12, 13-hour days, burnout, this like pretty heavy and intense lifestyle, like in order to run a multi 7-figure, 8-figure business, like that's what it takes, bro. Like,
Yeah.
I think everyone online like wants to be an entrepreneur and have a business, and they want to do that so that they can have like this awesome, relaxed, like fun lifestyle. But it's almost impossible, at least in my opinion, to have that like fun, relaxed lifestyle like you had in Bali and also really scale your business at the same time. Like that's why you came back over here, I imagine, right? So you can get your business to the next level. And then sure, a couple months out of the year, you can go like, blow off steam or whatever. But
Yeah.
it's very hard to, like all this stuff you see on social media, be an entrepreneur because I get this freedom and all that shit. Sure, you do have freedom, but you're usually working way more than everybody else.
And I think it also depends on what you want. Like I realized I want to be the sourcing guy. Like
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I want to be the very best at what I do, and I want to build something big. But I don't have to, like, you know what I mean? I was able to build a business up where I can work 2 hours a day and make plenty of money, especially in Bali, and just kind of coast. And so if you want to you can build infrastructure to build a lifestyle business and coast, or you can realize that anyone you're competing with is going to be working pretty damn hard.
Yeah.
So if your competitors are working 8 hours a day and you're working 2, eventually you're going to fall behind. So if you want to be the very best, like I want to be the best in the world at product sourcing, I think I can get there. I think I still have a lot to learn, and I'm going to be doing this until I'm in the grave. So for me to get that done, I got to put the effort in and work hard than everyone else.
So you'll be doing this, you think, your whole life?
Whole life.
Interesting.
Everything. Yeah.
One of the things that I think, and this isn't talked about very much, in my opinion, that's one of the hardest parts about being an entrepreneur is actually not how hard you have to work or how much you have to do. It's the opposite. It's when think about it this way. If you're a great entrepreneur, if you're a great founder, a great leader, you probably are really good at delegating and enabling others in your business to have the responsibility to compete at a high level and perform. And you give them the autonomy to go and be their own leaders in their own sectors. And when that happens, like if you think about it, if you're a great entrepreneur, what happens is you start a new department, you build it up, you get everyone really used to what's going on. And then all of a sudden, hopefully, it's running by itself.
Yeah.
And you don't need to be a part of it anymore. What happens then? You have all this free time. So I think one of the hardest parts about being an entrepreneur is not how hard you have to work. It's when you actually do have a ton of free time and nobody is telling you what to do. No one's giving you direction. You kind of just have to figure it out.
Yeah.
Like I feel like every single time we have a bottleneck in my business, I finally figure it out. And it's like, oh, fuck, I don't have any meetings today.
Yeah.
What do I do? So I got to go and try and fill the time. And I actually feel guilty sometimes and shitty about myself when I don't have much going on because I think to myself like, well, I should be working right now, right? I say I want to be this big entrepreneur and successful. I should be working, but there's nothing to do. And that's a result of the business actually working very well. Do you feel like that happens in your own business, that every time you hit a new level, there might be some free time and you have to fill that? Or how does that process look for you?
Well, I think Bali is actually a really good exercise for that because essentially you have to do all of your calls at night if you're going to be working with like the US. So a lot of your time block gets pushed into a much shorter time frame. During the day, you can work on deeper work stuff, but you're kind of have a little bit of freedom because you're not going to have any calls during the day.
Yeah.
It's going to be beautiful out. You're not necessarily going to want to work. So it's kind of this exercise of like, can I outsource so much of my business and can I delegate enough so that I can maximize and get all my work done when the US is awake from 9 p.m. until 1 a.m. or whatever it is. So that really helped me go and build the business where I was saying I was working, 2-4 hours a day for a while. But then at a certain point, you realize that, you want to go and build something new. So for me, that new thing was building out the content and building out the sourcing guy. And the thing is, if I didn't, I don't think if I did that, if I didn't do that exercise with Bali, where I went to Bali and was able to go and really build enough systems where I could then go to sleep at essentially noon Eastern, right, or 9 a.m. Pacific, and the entire workday I'm sleeping and the business completely running fine without me on a daily basis, it forced me into that. And so then at that point, then I had the freedom and the time to then go and invest into building out my personal brand.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I also feel like I think vacationing or going on these like somewhat longer travels can actually be great because you get to blow off steam. And then by the time you get back to the real world, it's like, fuck, I got to grind now. And you actually feel more motivated than ever. So I think, I don't know if I'd ever have time to go to Bali for a couple months, but I think the idea of like, I think people say like as an entrepreneur, you shouldn't vacation. It should be working all the time. I do think it's important to go on trips, especially trips with other young founders, other young people getting after it. I'm curious how impactful it's been. You're a part of a lot of like private growth networking groups. By the way, Isaac's in my group. Shout out Outliers. How important has it been for you surrounding yourself with like other young killers, you could say?
Everything. It's everything. If I look at like our biggest clients and the biggest projects we've all done, it's like, and how I grew the business, it's been through the other young entrepreneurs that I've met, and that just exponentially expanding. So what I was able to do, which was a blessing, was I got into like a startup accelerator type program for young college entrepreneurs when I was a freshman. It was called Future Founders. So they would fly us to Chicago, and we would do all this like networking, and those core people that I was able to meet in that group, who ended up becoming Forbes Under 30 and Teal Fellows and all that kind of stuff, their networks were also growing exponentially. And it became this kind of like club of all these like hustlers around, young, early 20 hustlers that really cared about business, that were doing things, that were actually running businesses. And then it makes it really easy once that becomes kind of like your circle, then those people introduce you to their circle. And you kind of travel around and you just continually grow that. But I think what's important with that is that you not only have that, you also need to have a personal brand. Because what happens is, I'm sure you experience it too, it's like you can go and meet someone at an event and you might completely forget about them, right? For a year or 2 years could pass. But as long as you have social media and you're consistently posting about what you do, what happens to us is like, literally there could be someone I met 5 years ago at something, and we follow each other, and now they've been watching all the Sourcing Guy stuff, and then now they become a buyer at whatever company, and then they hit me up and say, hey, it was really great meeting you in LA in 2019. I've been loving what you've been doing. Let's reconnect.
It's constantly a little reminder that you exist in a way, which is super valuable. And, I know that networking, like Luke Belmo, network, connect. Like, I know this term networking has sometimes a negative connotation because, like, don't get me wrong, like, you still got to do the work. You still have to perform. You still have to create something and create value. You can't just like talk your way to success. But if you are building something and you also have access to other young people, both in your industry and in other industries, I think there's nothing more powerful. Like I'm willing to say without a doubt, like even though I feel like I'm entrepreneur first, social media, and I'm sure you'd agree, posting my first video is probably the best decision I've ever made. It's helped my business not only with customers and sales and lead gen, but like introducing me to guys like you, starting my networking group, right? Like it's priceless. And I think, I don't know, when you have a group of people that whenever you have a problem, you can just hit them up. Hey, like just the other day in the chat, right? That kid was like, oh, I'm going to China. Like, does anyone know how to do business with the Chinese? Isaac messages him like, I do. Like, hit me up when you're out here, right? There's nothing more valuable than that. And I think people in this day and age not relying on social media and using it to the full ability they can is literally just setting themselves back. Like, I truly believe every single founder these days should have some sort of personal brand, some sort of platform that they can at least use as like, once again, talking about like reminding people that they exist, but somewhere where someone can click on to find out more about them. I think it's priceless.
100% agree.
Yeah. So what do you focus on now? Like, what do you think the biggest bottleneck in your business is these days? And what are you doing to get past it?
I mean, the biggest bottleneck right now is that we have like enough business, but we just don't have enough team and infrastructure to really support it. And for example, like supplements are a huge category, and we get requests every single day for us to help start sourcing with consumables, and I held off for the longest time, but now we finally built the infrastructure. I hired a new director for consumables and supplements who has like 10 years of experience, so now she can go run that whole department, and we can go and take in those leads and take on that kind of business as well. So I think at this point, like we're having growing pains of like, now I just have to really like make the investments grow the team, build even better infrastructure, better systems, to be able to fully take advantage of the personal brand and like the marketing that we have.
How do you do your hiring?
So we have a full-time recruiter. And that sounds probably crazy for a company with like
Full-time recruiter?
like 11 people right now. The thing is, we have a lot of part-time people.
Yeah.
And we do this
11 are full-time, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have a lot of part-time people that are essentially helping out on like a project basis, so that we can bring in expertise. So like we go and we have someone that wants to produce like super high-end bags. Well, great. Like our recruiter already found someone who used to work at Hugo Boss manufacturing bags. Now they're going to come in on the specific project and help us execute at like the highest level. So we look at like having the best people in our back pocket to execute on projects as being a huge kind of differentiating factor for us to be able to execute at a high level without having, 100 employees. And the way we do the recruiting is I just have a recruiter in the Philippines, and it's like a few dollars an hour, and they're just actively looking all the time for talent. As you probably know, it's like being a business owner. It's all about who you're hiring and hiring the right people.
If you don't have the right people, you don't go anywhere.
But it's so hard to prioritize that.
Yeah.
So
especially when you don't have access yourself, especially like if you don't have a platform or something.
Yeah. So
it's almost impossible. Like you just LinkedIn your way there, I guess, but everyone lies on LinkedIn.
Exactly. So my tip is go on like onlinejobs.ph, find a recruiter, hire that recruiter on an hourly or like a project basis, and have them recruit for you. It's way cheaper than using a recruitment agency, and it helps you like really have a backlog of team members as well.
I think we used your girl the other day, right?
One of them, yeah.
Yeah. So for everyone, watching, like I needed a new customer service agent because we used to do our customer service for SquidHaus out of house. We used to have like the warehouses we were working with handle it. And I got some great advice from my mentor. He's like, dude, this is stupid. He's like, everything needs to be built in-house. No agencies, at least for like ads, no agencies, like no outsourced customer service. Like all this stuff needs to be done in-house. Not only because it's your business and you should control it.
Yeah.
But if you're ever going to sell or exit one day, people want to buy something that's like structured and like it's like a sound business with no holes, right?
Yeah.
If you're relying on other people, that makes your business weak. And so,
except for sourcing, of course.
Except for sourcing, of course, right? Well, that's because Isaac knows what he's doing and I don't. But we used Isaac's recruiter to help find us a great customer service guy.
Yeah.
And he's been doing really well, apparently. That's what my co-founder said.
Great.
But so priceless. I guess to finish off here, what do you think, like, what's your long-term goal with the business? Do you see yourself ever retiring? Do you want to do this until the day you die? Do you want to have a massive 9-figure exit plus one day? Or like, what's your ultimate goal with Imprint Genius and sourcing?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that as I continue to source products over the next, let's say, decade, I'm just going to get better and better and better, where the problems I'm able to solve become massive. So if you talk about like Hormozi, like solve rich people's problems, and that's how you become rich.
Yeah.
If then I can start working with, billion-dollar companies.
SquidHaus.
Right, exactly. As a consultant and come in and spend a day and end up saving, $50 million across the year because I restructured the supply chain, or I found inconsistencies, or I helped move manufacturing outside of China to more lower cost areas. I'm able to make huge impact based off of my like experience, knowledge, and connections in a very short amount of time. So yeah, like the long-term play is continue to grow the agency, eventually exit out of the agency, so that we're, someone else can go and operate that. And then I can essentially just be doing like hot, very, very premium consulting.
I like it. And I think that also speaks to the importance of focusing on something, patience, and focusing on the same thing for a long period of time. A lot of these newer entrepreneurs out here, they're switching industries all the time. I'll try this, and I'll try this, and I'll try this. And sure, you're learning a lot, but like you're having to reset and start from the ground level in every new business. Sure, you have experience as an entrepreneur and a leader and hiring and all this stuff, but yeah, if you're doing sourcing like you have for almost 2 decades now, you're going to be a lot better than any person who's just getting into it. Whereas if you were to just like transition into a new business, you'd have to start from zero.
Yeah.
So I think that's the right way to go for sure. And that's like something I need to think about a lot too. Like in terms, I wonder to myself, like if I do sell SquidHaus one day, or exit or whatever, like, am I going to start another clothing brand or am I going to go into something different? I don't know. But I think there is value in just putting your head down for a long period of time and focusing on one thing.
And I feel very blessed I was able to find the thing that I'm passionate about to be able to do that.
Nice.
And it's, I task everyone else to really try to find something that you love, and eventually you can make money doing it.
Yeah, I agree. Well, is there anything else you want to cover? I feel like that was that's pretty good. Lots of info on your industry and you in general, your story.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, sourcing can be scary, can be complicated, but I think it's super fun because you're creating product that's going into the world. So I challenge everyone to go and learn how to source products yourself, learn the fundamentals of sourcing, and create cool stuff, bring cool products into the world.
Nice, bro. Well, appreciate you coming on, dude. This is great.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Brother.
Sweet.